What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Another week started off. Happy to be here. Ready to hang out for a while, watch some videos together, talk about what we think and feel about these videos, how they may affect a criminal case going on here in our country, in the state of Utah, against Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrand and the 8 Passengers YouTube channel that's involved. It's really interesting because today's video has kind of opened my eyes to some more aspects of this case that I didn't know about, and I really want to know what you all knew about it. You guys seem to have your finger on the pulse a lot more with some of the stuff than I do, and so I'm interested to watch the chat today as we watch the videos and look at the comments later because I had no idea. So first off, I didn't know about the 8 Passengers channel, right? Obviously, we knew that until it became criminal action and people sounded the bat signal for me to come and break down the legal aspect of it. I had no idea who these people were. I knew about momfluencers. I knew about, especially in certain states, how there were so many people that did certain things and they all built these nice houses and post them all on YouTube. Like I knew about all that, seen some videos like that. I probably wouldn't have even remembered which one was which. So I knew that was a thing, but I didn't know who the 8 Passengers channel was. Now I do, obviously. And I definitely didn't know that her other family members, when people were like, oh, you've got to see what her sister said about her. It's even more damning what her sister said, number one. Then I had other people saying her sisters are so narcissistic, they're only worried about themselves. And I was like, what are they worried about themselves? I don't really get it. And then when I went to look up, I was going to say interviews, but they're not interviews. They're videos just like I'm doing here, done by Ruby Franke's sisters. And I did not know that they also had YouTube channels of their own that seemed to be some kind of business for them. And so then I got to thinking, I wonder if they were big or Ruby was big first. And in my 2 seconds of Google research, I looked up that 8 Passengers had 2.3 million subscribers at one point. One of these sisters has, 1.5 million subscribers. Another one has a couple 100,000 subscribers. So it seems like Ruby Franke was the biggest channel of the three, which makes you think, were they riding Ruby Franke's coattails? Were they doing some of the similar things? Did they have some of the same parenting philosophies? Did they go to the same classes? What did they think of Jody Hildebrand? What was their relationship like with Ruby Franke? Why didn't they say something sooner? Were they worried about protecting their relationship? And a lot of people had questions about that. People are saying those videos are old news. So some of the videos are from 12 days ago, some 11, and then one, I think, 4 days ago. We haven't broken them down on this channel yet. So if you've already seen them and you don't want to hang for them, that's cool. I get it. These are not brand new videos. The brand new analysis of these videos is how are they going to affect the legal case? That's really the question. How are these videos going to affect the legal case? Will these sisters be witnesses? What are they actually witnesses to? And if they are witnesses and they did nothing wrong, could they have some criminal liability in this case? And do they think anybody besides Ruby Franke has criminal liability in this case? So there are some really interesting context clues we can get from how long this has been going on, how we got here, and how it can affect the criminal case, how it can affect bail and bond and things like that. There's a lot of different aspects to when people come forward after the fact, when allegations are made, especially when they're close to them, they're family members, they know how they live, they know what their life is like, they know these kids, they've been around these kids. And that's really, really important when it comes to the criminal case. So let's jump in. Hit that like button if you guys haven't already. And let me know in the comments what you think as we go. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. All right. So the first, we're going to go in date order. So this one was 12 days ago by Bonnie Holing. I don't know how to say her last name. And she's the one with the bigger of the two YouTube channels between these two sisters. I've got them on 1.25 speed. We should be able to make it through with that in time. So let's take a listen here.
My words will be used against me. I also know that my words may help people understand
And it is echoey. Her video is echoey, so we're doing the best we can with it.
me a little. I can only speak for myself, and I will only be speaking for myself, other than the judge has asked us not to speak on certain topics that I will not be touching on. What my family and I have gone through the last couple of weeks is the worst thing that has ever happened to us. It is, I spent the first week in complete shock, where I felt my body and my mind and my emotions were completely paralyzed because of the just absolute shock of all of this. The more I learn, my feelings are turning more to anger. I am mad. I am mad at what has happened. I am beyond disgusted, and I feel like it makes me tremble. It makes me tremble because it is unheard of. It's truly unbelievable. Something that I pride myself on, something that I enjoy doing, is being transparent. And I cannot be fully transparent with certain aspects of this. And if you don't understand that, then you don't understand how the system works. The first thing that I want to say is that we have kept quiet.
So we've already had some indications that the legal system and the legal process has somewhat silenced the family members from coming forward and maybe saying things that people expect them to say or want them to say. Throughout the videos, she mentions lots of time the internet hate and the people coming at her and saying things about her. So I don't know if this is in response to that, but she wants people to know there are certain things she can't say, certain topics she can't touch on, which is probably true. We've seen gag orders. We've seen judges instruct witnesses not to say certain things. Sydney Smith brings up a good question. Do you think realistically there would be any chance of her sisters getting custody of the kids? People all over have been saying they think they should, but I'm curious as to your perspective. It's really tough to speculate on that. It's always best to place within the family. I don't know if that would be her sisters or parents. Her husband has not been arrested yet, to my knowledge. So there are a lot of moving parts as far as custody goes, but maybe that is part of why she can't say certain things, is if there is some custody decisions going on, what she says about the parents, what she knows, her involvement could come into play there. So that could all be indications of what she means when she says people don't understand how the system works. And there are certain things the judge instructed her not to comment on.
For 3 years, on the topic of our sister Ruby and Jody and Kevin and connections. That is
so Ruby, Jody, the two co-defendants, Connections is their company, and Kevin is Ruby's husband. So she's got some very strong words for how she feels about Kevin, which is very interesting in this context of this video, because one thing she's trying to say is it's totally unfair for all these people to say you should have known. These sisters should have known. Mel says all these shocked people, and I think that's what Mel means. Shadow says, did she never watch her sister's videos? Yeah. I mean, her sister's videos, her nieces and nephews being around her sister. What did she know? How could she have missed it is what a lot of people are saying. Now, it's very unlikely that sisters would be accomplices in a situation like this or have some kind of criminal liability. But it's interesting that she is so offended and pushing back so hard on the you should have known comments for what she's also going to say about the husband, which I think a lot of us agree with. And we talked about the different scenarios. Had he been gone for years, and was Ruby isolating herself and not letting him see the kids? Or what was his involvement exactly? Because if he was around, he absolutely should have known and should have done something. And she's got some very strong thoughts on that.
What we have stayed quiet about. We did not know what they were doing because, like we said, we were cut off. We did not have access to anyone. My thoughts towards Ruby and Jody and Kevin and Connections is that it was all bullcrap. It was complete indoctrination of this thing that they created. I don't agree with how extreme they are on everything. I knew they were weird. I knew that they were off. Those are the things that we kept quiet about, because what was I going to say? What was I going to do? I was not going to come out.
So she didn't agree with them because they were extreme and they were bullcrap. But those are the things she stayed quiet about. So what was extreme about their teachings? And that's the thing. So if this is so interesting to me that the sisters are at odds, because if they're called as witnesses for the prosecutor, let's say, I think the defense attorney is going to go in on, you have to protect your brand, right? You connected your brand to Ruby Franke. You made money off Ruby Franke's coattails, right? So now you have to come out and condemn it, right? You have to come out and against it and basically show their bias in that everything they do is about their brand and about their YouTube channels. And when it was good for them to align with Ruby Franke, they aligned with her. And now that it's bad for them to align with Ruby Franke, they're not aligning with her, but it's all about the brand and their bias, and they need it to come out this way. And actually, I mean, this video has, where are the views? You would think I'd know how to find views. I can't see the views here. Do I have to click this or something? 28,000 likes. Oh, here we go. 538,000 views. So this video has 538,000 views. So if you're the defense and you're coming out with some biased questions for these sisters on the stand, maybe they're doing this for clicks. Maybe every step they're making throughout the process, which a lot of people have accused them of, is for their brand. So if they do testify against Ruby Franke and against what they saw in these extreme teachings, I think the defense is going to have some fodder for cross-examination. Additionally, I think they're going to say, if you knew this was so extreme as you admitted in this video, whatever the date was of the video, why didn't you do anything? Or isn't it true that this was not child abuse in your mind? Isn't it true that you didn't see that this was some kind of criminal action that Ruby was doing, but instead she was trying to help her kids, and that not everybody disciplines their kids the same way? That's, I think, how they're going to cross-examine these sisters who didn't really come out against their sister until after the fact. And maybe arguably when it was better for their brand, potentially. Maxaw says, Bonnie, this is Bonnie here that we're watching, has a video where she puts her kids on blankets and has their favorite toy just out of reach and doesn't let them touch them. She also got angry at her 3-year-old, won't sit still in a chair and not move at the doctors. Okay, so I think what Maxaw is saying, I don't want to put any words in her mouth, but I think what she's saying is, potentially some questionable parenting choices also by Bonnie might be on the internet as well. And is a light going to be shined now on her channel? Is it going to be more heavily scrutinized and potentially investigated based on what's happening with Ruby Franke? And maybe that's why she's coming out condemning, saying that it was so bad what they did and it was extreme what they did. A lot of information coming in these videos.
Publicly say that I don't like my sister and I don't like what she's doing and I think she's weird. That is what we kept quiet about. It wasn't until about a year ago when we were able to reconnect with Sherry. Again, we kept that quiet. We never came out and said anything. You guys saw us together, and those were little glimpses when Sherry was ready to allow us to show those glimpses with her permission. And it was then that we were learning slowly bits and pieces of more. And that's where the part of behind the scenes, we did everything that we could. We did everything legally that we could do. And for those that were saying that they
did everything legally that they could do. It's a tough one, right? Because I mean, and it's easy to come after the fact and talk about this stuff, okay? And I'm not discounting that at all. But I do think that reporting child abuse is important and something that we should all do. And I think that legally, there's nothing stopping you from doing that if you see it. So yes, they couldn't go take the children. They couldn't steal the children. They couldn't arrest Ruby themselves legally. But if they saw child abuse, they could have reported it. So legally, that is definitely something they could have done.
They go in and bust down doors and do whatever it took to end up in jail, because from jail, I can't do anything. So I still stand by what I said, is that I did everything that I could with the knowledge that I had and within the legal rights to Ruby and Kevin. The one person that could have done something within his legal right was Kevin. We had zero.
And so here we go. Now is where she's going to go after Kevin and saying he's the one that should have done something. He had the legal right to do something.
No contact with him. It was Kevin's job to check in on things, and he did not. So when I say that Ruby and Kevin and Jody and connections have been destroying our lives offline for the last 3 years, that is exactly what they've been doing, causing turmoil within our family. Us we would talk in circles because nothing made sense. Nothing made sense of what they were saying, of what.
So some of this is a little bit cryptic. Robin says it's more CYA versus I don't know, but it's a little cryptic. Like they were talking in circles. We didn't understand they were causing turmoil. How? How, right? I have a lot of questions about this. What exactly she means. And again, those details are going to become very important, I think, in the criminal case. And what everybody knew around her and how, because I mean, that's a legitimate defense is no, she was not abusing them. The kids were tying themselves up or something. I don't know. Or Ruby wasn't doing anything, but she didn't know what was happening at Jody's house because when Jody would send them back, they'd be more behaved. And this is all Jody and not Ruby. I don't know. I don't know what the arguments are going to be. But if all of her sisters never really actually saw anything and that's why they didn't say anything, then maybe Ruby wasn't doing anything that rises to the level of criminal action towards her children. I don't know. A lot of those things are still going to be questions in the criminal process.
What they were doing. And it was off the wall. We couldn't make sense of what they were doing and why. And this is where my anger comes in. Their actions have cast the worst light on me, on other members of our family.
So a lot of this has to do with how it affects her and how it makes her look. And their actions are casting a certain light on her. And now she looks bad.
Family. And I have decided that I am no longer allowing them to have any control over what I do. I didn't post because I physically couldn't. I physically could not turn my camera on. I physically could not come up with a structured thought in my mind. I felt completely out of my mind. This has hurt every single person in our family. And watching it hurt my husband makes me mad. I have stood by Joel's side.
And I do feel bad. I mean, I feel bad for them and it does suck and it is embarrassing and it's a dark mark on your family and your whole life when something like this happens, especially if you were aligned with your sister. I am not my sister. I'm not my sister's crimes is the title of this video, by the way. So I do get that and I do feel bad for her. It's an interesting way to handle it though, with these kind of comments and questions, though, I think as well. There's some things that just don't add up, right? Like some of the things she's saying, like we didn't see anything that rose to that level, yet we did all we could legally. Well, why were you doing stuff if you didn't see any problems? And then, I mean, this stuff though is really sad. I know a lot of people are going to say she's making it about her. I get it. Somebody else said, do a counter on how many times she says nieces and nephews, which I haven't heard yet, which is also really sad. It's the people it's affecting the most, but I do feel bad for them. I do feel for their family as well.
Building our home. And it sounds incredibly selfish to, given all the facts, be thinking of our house. But also, I have watched him put his heart and soul and every waking minute.
Okay, yeah, this is weird. So now she's talking about like how it's affecting their house and her husband building their house, I guess. Let me guess. They're doing a video series on building their brand new beautiful house. People like watching that, so I don't, no hate on that, but I would not mention it now. Yeah, Max Sauce seems to have her finger on the pulse on this one.
For the last couple of years on this project, and I will not allow Ruby and Kevin and Jody and Connections to take away one more thing. And so we wake up in the morning, we take our kids to school, and we come and we work on the house. And in the meantime and in between, we do everything that we can to be involved, but there is only so much that we're allowed to do. So you better believe that for my husband, we will push forward. We will move on. Not because it feels good in any way. It feels horrible. It feels horrible coming into the house and working on things and even thinking of anything else, all while every news outlet, every national news outlet, people coming out of the woodworks making claims that are just so beyond ridiculous that there is no comment. It is so stupid that there is no comment. 3 years ago, Ruby and Kevin cut our family off, and eventually they cut Kevin's family off as well.
So that's important, right? 3 years ago, they started cutting them off. Why? And this could be part of the timeline of this case.
I thought that was going to end my mom. She literally had a heart attack. She went into kidney failure. Her body was shutting down because it broke her. So you can only imagine what she is going through now, how we are all feeling now. And I'll only speak for myself, but Ruby and Kevin are not where my concern lies anymore. So it is difficult to have the blame put on us when these are not the actions of us. These are not the actions that we did. And I get people wanting to put blame somewhere. I do. They want to blame someone. There's only one person that could have helped, and he didn't. What he was doing all that time when him and Ruby were separated is beyond me. I will not let Ruby and Kevin and Connections and Jody take one more thing away from me. So you better believe I will continue.
So what did Ruby, Kevin, and Connections take away from her, right? There may be things I don't know, right? I don't know if there was some like beef on YouTube that affected her channel versus Connections and Ruby and Jody and Kevin. But very interesting timeline. Again, some vagaries in here that I would like to dig into, that if she becomes a witness in this case, I think we will find more answers. But if I was a lawyer on this case, I'd be watching these videos.
Continue to post, because if that is what tiny control I have left, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take control and do what I feel. It doesn't feel good to not know what's ahead. That is not a comforting feeling. I'm not even trying to find comfort at this point. I am focused on putting one foot in front of the other, 1 hour at a time, not even a day at a time, 1 hour at a time. I am focusing on what I can control, which is the environment that I have for my children. And that is the only thing that gets me up and out of bed every day, is my 4 children. So I will continue doing what I have always done, which is putting my kids and Joel first and helping in any way that I possibly can outside of that. I am not my sister. I am not my sister's mistakes.
All right. So that was her. This is the second sister here. So we're going to hear a little bit from her. It's a shorter video. This one's only about 5 minutes. Lisa, I think that this is referenced somewhere that she met Jody 3 years ago, and that Jody started the separation and isolation from Ruby from her family, but I don't remember if I read that in an article or saw it in one of these. Nirvana said, fingers are being pointed everywhere. The fake attempt of tears, complete cringe. I don't know about if they were fake or not. Like, I'm not that kind. I don't know that stuff. Everybody has their opinion, but I do see a lot of finger pointing around, and it is really sad. And this was a good comment here by Outstanding-ish or Outstandishing. Peter, I see a lot of comments in the chat about how she's saying me, but do you think she's barred from talking about the situation directly and the children for the case? Potentially, but I would be surprised if she was barred from saying, I love my nieces and nephews. I will do everything I can to help my nieces and nephews. We are here for them. They are the real victim. It's not like she held back and saying she thinks Ruby, I mean, the title is I'm not my sister's crimes. Not my sister's alleged crimes or actions that may be criminal, but her crimes. So I don't know. I don't think that she would have been completely precluded from saying anything about them. But all right, sister number 2.
I'm speaking today about my sister Ruby Franke, who was arrested a few weeks ago for child abuse. By now, you probably know that. You also probably have seen my sister Bonnie's video. I was about to post a video yesterday or today and just couldn't bring myself to do it. I've been trying to gather my thoughts for several weeks, and I don't think I'm ever going to have my thoughts completely put together here because it's involved so many people. There's so many little details. I am not going to be a news update. I will not update you on news. I will not give all of the little nitty-gritty details. I know I don't need to sit here and defend myself. I know I don't need to go into the history of what has happened. So we'll see where this goes and how much I get into. But the past few weeks have been extremely hard. Not only did all that happen with Ruby, but I had just moved to a new state, and Landon had to go back to Utah to finish up his dissertation for his degree. And so I've been settling into a new home with the kids without his help, and all of this fell down. So I literally have not had the physical or emotional capacity to address anyone, nor do I need to address anyone. But here we are. 3 years ago, Ruby, everything was great. It seemed to be fine anyway. We were a typical family. She was getting some therapy counseling because their family needed it, which I think is great. However, I think you need to get it from a great source. Read the reviews. Jody Hildebrand and her website or therapy style, I don't know what you want to call it, Connections, was not a great resource. And we all saw it. We all felt weird about this Jody lady. We weren't comfortable with it. We didn't like it. We didn't like the teachings Ruby was bringing to the family functions. And we were this close to telling her, if you come to our family events anymore, we do not want to hear what you were learning through connections because we don't like it. We never.
So first condemnation there that I've heard from either of the sisters on connections and Jody Hildebrand. So they think that those teachings were bad. They did not want to bring around. They were this close to telling her that those teachings were so bad and she wasn't allowed to say them anymore. That could absolutely be true. You hear things like that a lot after the fact, unfortunately, and not before when they actually could have done something about it. But very interesting that she is condemning. So we heard the first sister condemn the husband. This sister is somebody said, is she on 4 times speed? She's on 1.25 speed. I'll slow it down if it's too fast. I don't have a ton of time today. I got to be out of here at 2:30, but, so I slowed it down to just normal speed. But so she is directly commenting on Jody Hildebrand, how they knew it was crazy. They knew it was weird. They knew that it was not good, to practice what she preached. So that to me is really important. The finger pointing at Jody Hildebrand, which I think is probably Ruby Franke's best defense. I don't know what the truth is or what the facts are, but her best defense is to point the finger at Jody and say, she was also emotionally abusing me and forcing me to do this stuff. And I should have protected my kids, but I didn't. And maybe turn Ruby into a negligent type of abuse and not the felony intentional abuse. But I don't know. We're getting towards that. I'm hearing little tidbits that may be used by Ruby Franke's team.
Never did say that to her, but we thought it. Anyway, so 3 years ago, Ruby.
We thought all the right stuff at the time, but we never said anything. That happens, right? That does happen. I'm not going to condemn that. Some people in the chat may think that she's BSing, but we don't know. That could absolutely be true. I mean, it could also not be true, but.
And I hung out bottling tomatoes, and then a few weeks later, crap hit the fan and she left the family. And she didn't even call me to say, hey, Julie, you're doing this and this. I don't like it. You're living your life in distortion. So I'm going to have to take some time away from you. No, literally nothing. She did call my mom and yelled at my mom on the phone for 45 minutes. And
hey, I hear the chat and I listen to the chat and I prefer 1.25 too. So let's just listen to her knock out the rest of these comments.
Accused her of things that were not true. It was almost as if Ruby had been making up memories from her childhood. She was trying to grab it.
It's almost as if Ruby was making up memories from her childhood. Again, are we going to have some kind of mental capacity? I don't know. Interesting stuff.
Anything she could, and she would exaggerate on everything. So she started all of her lies back then, lying to everyone in her life, getting rid of all of her friends and family. And I literally had no contact with her. She wouldn't respond to any.
Isolation and abuse go hand in hand a lot. Getting other family members out. So was Jody this mastermind? Was Ruby a victim of Jody's as well? Something that I could see from this interview. Now, also she's saying, I had no contact with her. We got totally cut off.
Any texts or emails over the time that I tried reaching out to her, never got a response from her. So I was very fortunate to have been able to reach out to her daughter, Sherry, once she was an adult, and we were able to form a really close, strong relationship, which I am grateful for. And
both of them mentioned building a relationship with her adult daughter, who also came out. I think her adult daughter's the one that came out before about her mom, condemning some of what her mom did, I believe. But they both talk about having a relationship with her adult daughter that was estranged from Ruby Franke once she became an adult, which is an interesting comment.
It was then that I learned more about Ruby, and it was then that Sherry had learned about lies that had been told to her. I feel like me and my other sisters have said, we feel like we've just been kind of floating on a cloud here these past few weeks. We are in complete shock still as to what she had done, because we had no idea of what was happening. Basically, I'm here to say that I had no idea what was happening. Like Bonnie mentioned in her video, we are not going to let Ruby destroy another thing in our lives. We have our platforms where we try.
It's an interesting thought, right? I had no idea what was happening. They're focusing on that. That's a really important point in both these videos. They want everybody to know they didn't know what was happening. Would you condemn them? And just let me know, and feel free in the chat to be honest. If you had a sister that wasn't feeding their kid dinner or was doing things that you felt was like too far, would you report them? Or would it have to be like rope marks on their arms like we saw, like legitimate physical abuse that you see, versus what they're kind of making it seem like is we disagreed with some of what she did, but it didn't really rise to the level that we were going to call the cops on her.
and bring brightness and positivity into other people's lives. And that is why we didn't talk about Ruby in our content for the past 3 years. Yeah, we try and show the highs and lows of everyday family and parenting, but Ruby's topic was not supposed to be part of that content. And it was none of your business. It was nothing that we needed to talk about. And I wasn't sure if her kids were maybe still watching these videos, and I didn't want to be not tactful and slander their mom and then have them watch those videos. That didn't sound like a nice thing to do either. And so that is another reason why we didn't talk about the subject of Ruby for the past few years on my channel. However, as far as my platforms go, I do want to continue them, but the content will probably look a little bit different. I have some pre-recorded videos before all of this fell apart that I will be posting. And then after those videos, I will probably just shift my content a little bit and it'll be a little different, but I will still be here posting probably once a week instead of twice a week like I had been. And I hope you guys stick around. Those followers who have been following me for years saw past all of this. You are here to support and love no matter what. The people who came here to my comment section with negativity and attack were probably people that didn't even know who we were. And so I know not to take offense to all of that, even though it was still really hard to see and hear all of the negativity. So if you have been a longtime viewer and you have stuck around, thank you so much for your love and support. And if you are new to my channel, welcome.
YouTube's a weird place. It really is a weird place. And I did not have a lot of experience with it at all before starting to do these videos. So I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a weird place. We got one more video. Such a weird ending. So basically all of you are saying, yes, I would report it. And I hope you would. If you saw abuse, you would report it. But I do think people parent very differently, and, you know, all different siblings in my family and extended siblings and cousins all parent very differently. So, yeah, Melissa, that was a little bit of a weird, just a little bit weird. But again, parenting differently doesn't necessarily mean it's abuse. So gosh, I don't know. I feel a little bit, it's a weird situation. It's definitely a weird situation. Cerebellum, do the sisters have lawyers? I don't know. I don't think they have any criminal liability. Like, if they saw their sister beating one of the children, then yes. It doesn't seem like there really was any of this. And if they thought the teachings were too extreme of Jody, let's see what they actually did do in the background before we really jump to any conclusions as far as if they have criminal liability. Right now, everything I've seen, I would say no. The videos did not come out on the same day. Bonnie did one first, then the blonde sister, I can't remember her name, did one the next day, and then this was a few days later that we're going to watch right now. Lady Law Sandra, can these videos be used in discovery? Yes, especially if these sisters become witnesses. They're going to be part of their witness file, basically. And they'll be reviewed before they actually are called to the stand, if they are, or maybe even deposed. It depends. Nirvana said these sisters are protecting their platforms. True. And if it's their business and stuff, I get it. It's weird. You know, it's weird. It's like, how do you talk about your house when your sisters accuse this and people are accusing you of knowing and doing nothing about it? Especially when you all have family channels and talk about parenting and have your kids on the videos and stuff. It's tough. It's tough.
I've filmed a lot of videos and I've been able to articulate my feelings through my videos in every situation that I've come across for the last near decade of my life. And it feels impossible to try and articulate my feelings right now, to articulate my grief. I've seen my fair share of hate on the internet towards myself, towards peers. And I know that watching...
And I will just say, Cheryl M's comment is a good one that I always appreciate. And also, like, to hear people talk about the hate they get on the internet is like, don't do it. If you're one of those people commenting on their videos, don't do it. Go delete a mean comment. It's not going to do anything good. It's not going to bring any positivity to the... I always talk about, like, is it going to make the situation better, right? Making them feel worse about themselves is not going to make the situation better. Encouraging them maybe to make sure they're not doing things that are extreme with their kids, right? If they grew up in the same kind of way and maybe they have the same kind of mindset and have some of the same kind of teaching, maybe encourage them not to act like that. Encourage them to testify against their sister if they do know anything about her criminal activity, or against her husband or whatever. If they do have knowledge of some kind of criminal neglect or abuse, definitely come out and testify against it. Encourage them to do that. But, like, I hate to see the hate from the keyboard warriors and the people that, you know, just would never say stuff to them in real life. And even if you would say it in real life, just, I would say, make it constructive. It doesn't have to be nice, but make it constructive. I just think that it's tough. It's tough to be in these situations. The internet is a tough place. People open themselves up to it, especially when they create YouTube channels and stuff like this. So it's going to happen. But from our perspective, each one of us, then I think that's what we should try to bring construction to the comments. Yeah, this is just audio and she made this video. I don't know, but it's holding my head high while my heart is breaking, whatever. It's just she comments more on the Ruby situation.
People on the internet, you can become very invested. I've watched some people online
Yes, this is
that
Bonnie
I felt
again.
very
Sorry, yeah, this is Bonnie again. And she is commenting while like vacuuming at her house, I guess, or whatever, and working on her house. I don't know. It's a pretty nice view.
invested in. And when they went through scandals, and I don't know if you can call this a scandal, I don't know what this is, but it broke my heart. And I remember crying for
This is alleged criminal activity.
them. I was hurting for them for a few weeks, and I've had many people go through tough times online, and I've always watched to see how they go through it. Never did I think I would be in a situation like this, because I'm very conscious of my choices, and this just goes to show you that life will get you whether you make good choices or not. And it's really difficult when others hurt you, when others hurt the people you love.
I'm trying to keep the legal angles this, but life does not get you whether you make good choices or not. I don't necessarily think that is true. I think a lot of it has to do with perspective and how you look at life and what you expect from life and what you think you're entitled to based on your decisions, right? You can't control everything, but that doesn't mean you should start making bad decisions or that making good decisions was not the correct thing to do in the first place. I'll keep it to the legal analysis from now on, but
and you have no control over it. I think the first thing that I want to even try to say without just being such a mess, I want to say thank you to those of you who made comments on my last video. I did not keep any judgmental comments because that's my space, and you have an entire internet that you can go and make mean comments to, but not on mine. I kept over 5,000 kind comments, and I read every single one of them. So I just want to say thank you if you were one of those people. My life and my family seems to just be entertainment. This is a new media story, so everyone is just running with our tragedy, most of the time out of context and just tearing us down. But your comments were like a little bit of light in the midst of a dark room. No matter how dark the room is, you can always see just that little bit of light. I would say the most common comment that I got was, why was I making the video about me? Well, if you listen to the video, I said exactly.
Well, here we go. We get to have her answer.
That I was only going to speak from my perspective and how it was affecting me. And because I cannot and will not speak about the real victims, but if you're human, you know who the real victims are. And that is truly where my heartache stems.
All right. So she's making a comment that she maybe can't speak about the kids or the victims, but calling them the victims and talking about the victims. I don't see how that's different than saying I love my nieces and nephews and will do everything I can to help them. But again, what do I know? I've never seen a judge say you can't say you love your nieces and nephews publicly because of any case going on.
Stems from and who my heart aches for. There really are so many levels of pain in this. This affects every single aspect of every single one of our lives in my family. I've really had the urge to come on here and defend myself with things that are being said all over the place because so much of it just isn't true. And I just feel like me coming on here, fighting or defending myself, it will not do any benefit to me or my situation. And I've never had the phrase ring so true to me that bees don't waste their time trying to explain to flies why flowers and honey is so much better than crap. Something that I think is really interesting is you can paint anyone to be a monster, and you can take that same person and you can paint them into the most fabulous person you've ever known. And I really think it all depends on who the person is that's doing the talking. You really do find exactly what you're looking for in people, in situations, during trials. And no matter the situation, you really are going to find exactly what you're looking for. I know exactly who I am. And to be honest, that feels really good to be able to say that I can lay my head down at night and feel really good about the choices that I've had to make. I really am going to hold my head up high, even while my heart is breaking, and even though I am completely crushed and completely sad. This is a pain that I have never felt before. I am going to hold my head up high, even while my heart is breaking, even though I am completely crushed and completely saddened by the entire situation and for my entire family unit. And when I tell you that I know this affects not just my immediate family, because it does, but I've had neighbors that grew up with all of us, people that have watched us all grow up online, and it affects all of us. For as many prayers as you are offering up on behalf of us, I've said it before and I'll say it again, that my prayers are also with you. And right now, they are prayers of gratitude for those that are expressing love towards our family.
Oof, I don't get uncomfortable easy. That was a little uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie. Beautiful windows, beautiful view, very clean windows. Not sure what the thought was behind that setup for that video, but I do feel bad for her. I feel bad for their family. I feel bad for the kids. Doodlebug said, well, we've been talking about judge told the family not to speak about it. Well, if the judge told the family not to speak about it, they're breaking that rule already with these videos because they are speaking about it. They're directly speaking about Ruby. They're directly speaking about her actions. They say the words, her crimes. They say the teachings. She was bringing weird things. So they are talking about it. So I get that they might not be able to say those kids are abused. They told us they were abused, but they can say, we love them. We are here for them. They are at the forefront of our minds. We will do whatever we can to help them, period. They could have said something like that, I think, because if the judge did a blanket gag order, like you can't say anything about anybody, then I don't think they could have made these videos in the first place. Just my thoughts on it from how I normally hear judges tell witnesses and people involved in the case what they can and can't say. Additionally, I think this would have to be as part of like the child custody part, because the criminal court, I don't think is going to tell anybody's siblings what they can or can't say, especially if they're not direct witnesses to what happened that day. But I don't know. Chloe, wow, Ruby's sister is more worried about her YouTube channel than her nieces and nephews. Yeah, but she will have us believe, and that may be true. The judge said you can't say anything about the nieces and nephews. Maybe that's the truth. And if it is, that's the reasons why she didn't say anything about her niece and nephew specifically. Yeah, I didn't think there was a gag order, but Doodlebug, it sounds like you're saying there was just an instruction for them not to talk about it. An instruction to the sisters to just specifically not say the words nieces and nephews, because they do kind of talk about it in these videos. So can't discuss the kids. I mean, I get how it sounds and how it makes sense in your head. Can't discuss the kids, but we live in a real world, and saying we know who the real victims are and that's who we care about, whatever. How is that different from saying the kids or my nieces and nephews or what? A judge would be, I'll just tell you, a judge would be just as upset at the inference that everybody knows exactly what you're talking about as they would if you just said the words nieces and nephews. So either judges are like, don't talk about it, and they're going to be mad if you talk about it at all. They're not going to like you letting everybody know exactly what you're saying without saying it. It's just as bad. My perspective, just my perspective. But I don't think a judge would, I can't see a judge getting mad about saying I love the kids and I'm here to protect the kids. Azam, thank you for the super sticker. All right, there was a couple off-topic comments I wanted to get to. First, Rebel Duck, congrats on the win over Clemson, but the Tigers still get my. So the Rebel Duck is a big Tigers fan, I guess, but woo, it is. We've been the. Just have had almost a heart attack every Saturday watching Florida State. In case anybody doesn't know, we're talking about Florida State football. They beat Clemson this week, and now we go into the bye week, which we need to rest and heal up a little bit from some of the injuries going on. And then Rebecca said, Peter, you're so fair and right down the center, unlike in fantasy football, where you're hogging all the players. Congrats this week. Yes, my boys fell flat on their face. That was pretty rough for your Cowboys. I didn't think there was a shot that could ever happen like that. It was ugly. But hey, that's football, and that's why they play the game, right? That's why they play the game. Okay. And we can, there's going to be some touchy subjects here, some difficulties, some stuff that's really sad, but I still want to see how it affects the legal process. If these people are going to be witnesses, how this could be used, how this is going to be used in the prosecution of Ruby and Jody and maybe Ruby's defense. That's really why we look at these things and how we break them down. I don't know if they're telling the truth. I don't know if they're being sincere. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to end up getting custody of the kids. I don't know. Okay. I don't know anything about their channels and their houses and stuff like that. I can imagine. But I really like for your all's insight because you bring a lot of context to the table that I might not have because I haven't watched them from the very beginning. So I appreciate you all for bringing that. I appreciate you for joining me. Hit that like button. 5,000 people here. Let's get to 5,000 likes on this video before we end. And we'll continue breaking this stuff down and seeing how it all weaves together for the legal process. That's all I've got. I'm out of here. Until next time, see you later. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who might be interested here on YouTube. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. You can also follow us on all social media, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, at Lawyer You Know. But on Instagram, we are still at Tragos Law. So look us up on there. And don't forget to listen to the Lawyer You Know podcast, available on all major podcast platforms. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. Of course, all of these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, the Lawyer You Know.